Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeVias, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome actor, producer, author, and entrepreneur Kevin Sorbo to the Reboot Chronicles. Before Marvel movies were everywhere, Kevin was known to millions around the world as Hercules. The series Hercules was a big hit in 176 countries, even surpassing Baywatch as the most watched TV show on the planet. A conservative Christian, kind of shunned by Hollywood, Kevin formed Sorbo Studios, which has produced some critically acclaimed movies, including God's Not Dead and Miracle in East Texas. Pretty cool flicks. He'll tell you about some other ones, of course. I also like Kevin because he's co-authored a couple books. One was one of the top Chicken Soup series, which is really positioned for kids, obviously, but Think Positive for Kids, 101 stories about good decisions, self-esteem, and positive thinking. We could use a lot of that today. And his own inspiring reboot story, quite frankly, is chronicled in his book, True Strength, the journey from Hercules to a mere mortal, and how nearly dying saved my life. Kevin, good to see you.
Good to be seen. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, those of you that are on the video feeds, he's got a beautiful backdrop. I normally wouldn't start with this, but how did dying nearly save your life?
Well, I mean, it was the end of season 5 on Hercules, and I lived in New Zealand 7 years. That's where we shot the series, and I was home for me.
That why it was so stunning, all the backgrounds and stuff?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Peter Jackson used to come on the set quite often because during the 90s, we shot from 1993 through the end of 1999. I was down there for almost 7 years total. And he came down on the set quite a bit because he wanted to see how the crew was developing because they've never had anything like our production down in that country before. We actually, as he said, it was my show that really started the industry in New Zealand overall. Because we had 2 spin-off series. We had Xena in season 3. Season 5 was Young Hercules. That show only lasted 2 seasons. A lot of people don't remember the young actor playing me as a teenager, but it was a guy named Ryan Gosling. And that's pretty much how his career got started, was with Hercules. I
hope you get some royalties from Ryan.
Yeah, he should put me in some of his movies. Actually, I told Peter Jackson, why you give me such a nice compliment about how we trained so many people from behind the camera. How come you didn't give me a role in your one of your 3 movies? But he laughed and said, maybe I should have done that. But I went straight from Hercules to Andromeda, which was the first show Gene Roddenberry wrote after Star Trek back in 1969. Had a nice 5-year run there. I played Captain Dylan Hunt, so I'm the first captain ever created by Gene Roddenberry after Captain Kirk. So that was quite an honor. But it was in the season 5 for me. I was having all kinds of problems with my shoulder. And I was doing most of my own stunts because my ego said that I could, and I enjoyed doing it. And so I kind of blew it off. I came back to America to do publicity in my first big budget movie called Kull the Conqueror for Universal Studios. Kull was the father of Conan in the books and the comic books as well. And I went to see my doctor, and he found a lump way up here in my left subclavicle. And I went to see my chiropractor before they did the biopsy on this. I'm laying on the table, and a voice inside my head said, "Don't let him crack your neck," which is weird because he's never cracked my neck before because he knows I don't like it. No, I want any new chiropractor, the first thing I say is, don't crack the neck. You can crack the back, leave the neck alone.
The same
voice
way.
Said, don't let him crack your neck. Well, he cracked my neck. And when he cracked it, that aneurysm was right up there, had been spitting blood clots down in my arm. It was kind of suffocating the flow in my fingers. Neurologists call it retrograde flow, where I had 4 clots going to my brain. I suffered 4 strokes. And it took me 4 months to really learn how to balance and walk again. It took me 3 years to fully recover from it. So I wrote the book. I didn't want to write the book. My wife kept bugging me saying, you got a great story to tell. People, you were such great physical shape during Hercules and you still suffer this thing. And really what had changed my life is that it just sort of redirected my life. I've always been a believer, always been a Christian, but it sort of redirected my life to want to do movies that really had a positive impact on people instead of a negative impact. Because you see what Hollywood's doing today compared to the movies I do are quite different. So, it just really kind of put me on a better road, I think, and gave me a lot more patience in my life instead of just being go, 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 even though I still do that now. But there's a different purpose and a different road that I'm on now compared to what I was prior to suffering that illness.
Yeah, amen. Good story. Good for it's Sam, right? Your wife, for encouraging you to write the book.
I didn't want to write it. I'll tell you what it did. All of a sudden, I do about 12 to 15 speaking events a year. I never thought of doing that sort of a sideline job, going to speaking events.
Right.
But it's sort of, you read the book, you realize, oh, he's conservative, he's a Christian. So now I get invited to do motivational speaking, speaking at hospitals, speaking at conventions dealing with pro-life organizations. It's been kind of an interesting road.
Christian movies are really hot right now. Unsung Hero came out, and my friend Pete rented out a whole movie theater, and we all went. And
Yeah.
you're in one called The Firing Squad, which looks amazing. I think you've got Cuba Gooding Jr. in there, and Eric Roberts, and was it James Barrington, and you, of course. And what's that one all about?
It's Tim Che came to me. He's a good friend of mine. He's a director, executive producer. Very driven guy. He's got such a positive influence on the set as well. He's always upbeat. He's always supportive. He's always pushing. We talked about doing movies before. This one lined up finally. We shot it last year. It's a true story about Indonesian prison, and I play a guy that was there decades earlier, where he was surfing and he saw his girlfriend flirting with some guy on the shoreline. He got jealous, went on shore, picked the fight. He accidentally killed the guy, but he murdered him. So he got arrested, got the death penalty, and through his decades in prison, he found God and became a pastor. He actually went through the whole routine to become a pastor, started saving all the souls in there of that prison, and not only inmates, but the guards as well. Ultimately, he was executed in 2015 in front of the firing squad. But he realized that his life had changed drastically by that murder, and the reason it happened, but going to prison, that's how he found God. So even though he did a horrific thing, something good came out of that, the taking of another man's life. And it's not only saved his life, his soul, but it saved the souls and lives of many other people within that prison. So it comes out August 2nd. They can go to firingsquadfilm.com. That's firingsquadfilm.com. They can see the trailer, get information. August 2nd, the movie releases. And it's
pretty powerful trailer.
We're trying to reach 1 million souls. We're trying to save 1 million souls in this movie.
Oh, I think you will. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a hit. It was the trailer. I'm not into like sensational trailers. It was really good.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, why did you decide to start Sorbo Studios?
Because Hollywood kicked me out.
It's only a half-hour show. I'm sorry, we can't.
About 10 years ago, my manager and agent called me in and said we can't work with you anymore because of the things you're posting on Facebook and Twitter. And I'm going, you mean because I'm posting the truth? I said I'm not posting anger, I'm not posting hatred like most people use those forums for. They said, well, things are changing within Hollywood. And you being a Christian and a conservative is kind of like a double whammy. So I say it's like a double leper to Hollywood. So I formed Sorbo Studios. My wife and I formed them, and we connect with other independent people as well. I had 2 movies out last year that I directed. One was called Left Behind: Rise of the Antichrist, based on the Left Behind books. And then the other one was Miracle in East Texas, true story, set in 1930 about 2 con men that went through Oklahoma, Texas, wooing widows out of their money on fake oil wells. True story. They had the largest oil strike in the world. So if people go to sorbostudios.com, they can sign up. They get all kinds of information and also get copies of those movies if they'd like.
Yeah, it's a strong story. I mean, some people get knocked down. They don't think of, hey, I'm gonna buck the system, not fight it, start my own studio. And that. So it's been going on for a while. And you can use any kind of word you want how to describe the trend. Do you think there's a counter trend coming?
The counter trend?
Maybe back to normal trend? I don't know. I don't know what you call it.
Well, here's what I think. You just mentioned how Christian films are gaining traction. I think they've been gaining traction a lot over the last 10, 12 years, and they're really picking up more and more and more, which is wonderful. Because people are hungry. They're hungry for hope. They're hungry for redemption. They're hungry for something that will make them find a positive avenue in their life, because there's so much anger and hate out there. COVID was huge to show what governments are doing to the world. I mean, fear is their favorite weapon. And everything I was posting about COVID, all my conspiracy theories, which got me kicked off of my 4 million followers on Facebook, they've all come true. So I posted on X. I said, all my conspiracy theories keep coming true. I need more of them. So the battle is on, but I think the tide is changing because people are sick of all the hate and anger out there right now.
Speaking of deplatforming and oligopolies, so when I said Christian media and films are becoming more popular, I mean distribution is actually allowing them in too. So you're seeing some of the theaters that you never used to, but you still get back to the digital, I don't know, I'll call it an oligopoly. You got Netflix, Amazon, Apple, you name them. Do you think? I mean, how's the distribution side treating your studio and other studios that are kind of similar in your genre?
Well,
It's
there's
getting
not as
better.
many. Well, you wish you had some of the bigger ones out there. I mean, you look at some of the studios. They ultimately, if they do take your film, they pretty much say, "We'll make all the money, you'll make nothing." But there's some independent people out there doing well. I mean, obviously, the streaming is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. I mean, there's less and less people going to theaters. I still love going to movie theaters. I love the big look of it all.
Oh yeah.
And it's still important to get your movies out there, no matter what level they are in terms of funding. If there's low budget movies to the big $300 million ones Hollywood does. But if you can get it in the theaters, that adds a little more cachet to have Netflix and Amazon want to look at you. But even those monster places for streaming, if they disagree, like if I had a great climate change, climate hustle part 2 documentary, they wouldn't let us show it. It's like going, wait a minute, you're not going to show the other side of the issue? And that's the biggest problem out there right now, this censorship that's still going on in some of these big dogs. It's so childish. They're like a bunch of little 7th grade girls fighting over whatever stupid thing they want to fight over. It's weird that we cannot have the argument on both sides of any issue. And
No.
debate is healthy and it's good, but they don't want to have that.
I think we just lost our 7-year-old audience, but I think the word debate is being eliminated from the dictionary. Maybe that's it. So when I was going to ask about kind of innovation and how you come up with stuff, but let's just go right to it. What's your pipeline look like? What's happening?
I got a lot of stuff going on right now. I've got about 5 movies in post production. I've already shot 2 movies this year. I got 2 movies coming out that are completely done, as I mentioned. I got 3 documentaries coming out. I got 1 more week in Israel. Hopefully, I can get back over there to finish up this documentary. It's called "The Quest for the Throne of God." It deals with, through archaeological digs, we trace the flow of the Ark of the Covenant. I spent 3 weeks there last year.
Yep.
I've got a wonderful documentary coming out with Ingenuity Films. It deals with the Last Supper, and it's called "Eating with the Enemy." It's Brent Miller's company. I had the #1 documentary with that same company 2 years ago on Amazon for 5 months. It was the #1 documentary. It's called "Before the Wrath," which deals with the second coming. And Brent is a genius with what he does with these documentaries, and they just do a wonderful stuff. And I've been very fortunate to be the narration voice within these documentaries.
Who's writing these titles? "Eating with the enemy" is so powerful.
It's a great title. That'd be Brent. Brent and his team. You know, they just have an amazing gift with these documentaries that they do, and I hope people will check out "Eating with the Enemy" when it comes out. It's a good one, and we're rebooting through them. Actually, a documentary I did 5 years ago with John Lennox. For those people who don't know him, he's a retired math professor from Oxford University. Spent 3 weeks in Oxford with him and 2 weeks in Israel. And this deals with proving God in a world of science. It's called "Against the Tide," and we're going to have a reissue of that coming out later this year as well.
No, that's going to be pretty popular. Did I see you doing a shoot with a bunch of Liberty University students? Was that you?
I did. We just wrapped. Well, you're getting some stuff. That's interesting.
I got up early this morning.
We just finished shooting last week, and it's called "The Precipice," and it's a pretty cool story. It's an action faith-based movie. I'm not going to give up everything, but it deals with the family out camping, and there's a bunch of like Antifa type punks that come out there for shits and giggles, as they say. Pardon my French, but they go out there and they cause some mayhem. It splits up the family, and I play a ranger that ends up saving the lives of two of the people.
That sounds powerful.
It's a pretty cool, little powerful story.
Aren't you doing something on Regan?
I'm in the Regan movie as well. That comes out the end of August. Dennis Quaid played Regan, and I play as pastor. Sean McNamara directed it, and Sean directed Dennis and I in a movie 10 years ago called Soul Surfer, the Bethany Hamilton story that did very well in theaters. It's about the 13-year-old girl that lost her arm to a tiger shark attack off the shore of Kauai. And a year later, she was still the #1 surfer in the world in her age group. And
I remember that.
Great story. Great story, and a great movie. Did very, very well in theaters.
So he's Regan and you're Regan's pastor. Wasn't Billy Graham his pastor? Wait a minute.
No, we had another pastor through. I think Billy Graham was a pastor. Everybody, I think, but it's a true story, and it's based on the pastor that he had from his college years on. So that movie is coming out. In fact, the executive producer Mark Joseph just got in touch with me yesterday. I owe him a phone call, so he just reminded me.
Sounds like they're letting you back in a little bit there, and on the left coast.
Slowly, trust me, it's interesting. You know, I did a movie called Let There Be Light that I directed. It was a number two movie per screen average opening weekend is against Thor Ragnarok. This was a $3 million budgeted movie. Sean Hannity actually funded that. And I get a call from Netflix after opening weekend saying, we want
Yeah.
to open an inspirational division with you. After 4 meetings over 4 months, ultimately they did nothing, which is just amazing to me with their ideology is so filled with hate and anger towards people that are Christians and conservatives that they want to forego 80 million homes out there that want the kind of movies I do. So that's one battle we got to break down with Netflix, because I know half the people in that company agreed with me, but it's like, shh, everybody keeps their mouth shut. People are afraid to speak up.
Yeah, I mean, they and others are, they're tough to deal with just on the negotiation front. I mean, I used to work with Netflix when Reed Hastings was running around Silicon Valley. We were both on this group called TechNet that did all the lobbying for
Mm-hmm.
media and tech companies. And yeah, they've come a long way. I mean, what about Amazon? What do you think of their studios? I mean, they picked up a big brand there for billions of dollars.
I'd love to. I mean, I'm always open to do work with these guys. They just have to open up their thought process here. I mean, that's like I said, the biggest battle is dealing with what Hollywood's putting out compared to what we're doing. Look at Disney; they lost over $1 billion last year, and I just read this morning the stock report that the stock even fell down even more. What are they doing? That they're this whole woke thing is just crazy, and they're realizing that they're losing their core audience, and they don't seem to care. It's the strangest thing in the world to me. How are they getting their money? I mean, I can be another conspiracy theorist and think that the Washington D.C. is taking our tax dollars and funding them under the tables and saying, just keep pushing your agenda, keep pushing it. Why they want to push this woke agenda doesn't make any sense to me. I wish somebody could answer me that question. That why they want to destroy America and destroy. I don't know. It's just this whole education thing we have, this whole university thing we got going on right now with all these students that are pro Hamas and hate America. Well, I say then move to the countries that you want to turn America into. Leave America free. You go live in Iran and Iraq and see how much you love your little utopia that you're looking for.
Yeah, the just as a business guy, comments about Disney. To me, that seems like a really good opportunity for the independent studios to do things that
Yeah.
big audiences want, and they're just not getting it. What on earth ever motivated you to be an actor?
I was a jock, and we always made fun of people in the drama classes. But when I was 11 years old, I grew up in Minnesota, outside of Minneapolis. There's a very famous theater downtown Minneapolis called the Guthrie Theater.
Oh yeah,
Arlo Guthrie, a British actor, founded
yeah,
it
yeah.
decades ago. And a lot of plays start there before going to Broadway. Probably the most famous one would be Lion King. And I went to see fifth grade. We had a field trip down there. We saw The Merchant of Venice. Now, I was 11. It was Shakespeare. And I don't know what the heck they were saying, but I fell in love with the whole craft. I just was mesmerized, but
You
I'm
were
on
hooked at
stage.
11.
I
Wow.
started kind of playing around with it, but I really, really dove into it in college. I had a double business major, but I took a minor in drama and started doing a lot of commercials to get that all important Screen Actors Guild card, that SAG card you got to get to even get an audition. And a lot of people don't realize Minneapolis, I think, is the third biggest commercial market in the country. You got headquarters of Best Buy, Target, 3M, Honeywell, Pillsbury, General Mills, Cargill. I mean, there's so many big companies there. So I did a lot of commercials during my college years, and
Yeah, a lot of them have been on the
went to
program.
LA. Had no problem getting a commercial agent because I had all that stuff right away.
So that's you. What about new aspiring actors, whether they're in college or done, and kind of advice would you give folks that want to be an actor?
Well, get ready for a lot of rejection because that's kind of what it is. People think it's, we live in a very impatient world right now. You live in an impatient world where you got all these people on TikTok and the internet thinking that, oh, I'm famous now because I'm jiggling my butt and whatever. And so to me, it's like the reality of the world is you're going to move out. You want to move to LA, want to move to New York, you're going to find out the competition is pretty stiff. And you just got to be ready for it. Do it because you love it. Don't do it because you want to be the next big superstar because most people will not make it to that level. It just doesn't happen that way. I mean, I don't have Tom Cruise's or Tom Hanks's career, but I got a pretty darn good career going that most actors will never see in their life. And that all came from hard work. I love to tell people I'm a 13-year overnight success. You got to get ready to put your time in and you got to study hard. You got to study your craft. You got to be religious about it.
Yeah, 13 years is a long night. So you and your wife started the company. You weren't a business guy. What kind of challenges? It's been some of the toughest things you've had to deal with.
Well, here's I'll give college some credit for. I had double business degree, marketing and advertising, and so
Oh, well, so you were
so
slightly
I'm in the
prepared.
business of marketing and advertising myself in a way. But yeah, I mean, I understand. Hollywood is called show business. It's not show. So I understand the business part of Hollywood. So I was willing to throw myself out there and work hard. I remember bugging my agent and manager all the time. There was a thing called the breakdown service. The breakdown service every day was spit out. We're auditioning this type of person for these commercials, or this type of person on a TV show, or whatever it may be. And I just would call up and say, "Hey, get me on this audition. I'm perfect for it." And I remember my agent one time saying, "Kevin, I got 100 other clients." I said, "I don't care. You think your 100 clients give a crap about me? Get me in the door. Let me have the chance to be rejected," was my mantra. Just get me in the door. I trust me, I've got years of being on the 101 and 405 in that crappy traffic of Los Angeles.
Headed to an audition. Yeah.
Spending 2 hours to drive 20 miles, just one way, and to be rejected. But, I hit the pavement hard and I didn't give up.
So they need to be persistent. They need to be able to handle rejection. I know many actors or aspiring ones that are very shy, believe it or not, off camera. On camera, they
sure, of course.
switch. You were more aggressive, which was good, probably saved you. These are also good lessons, just, in terms of building a business and your own career. It's like you're going to get beat down a lot. And
yeah.
Do you have any mentors along the way, by the way? Did you just become this way yourself?
I think the mentors to me were growing up. I remember watching all these reruns of old black and white movies with my mom. I fell in love to this day. I still love it. And I have three children, two boys, and my daughter's the youngest. My daughter shares that same love for old movies with me. So we watched a lot of these old movies that I watched growing up with my mom. And it was, from Cary Grant to Humphrey Bogart to Katharine Hepburn to really my big is influences, I think, were Paul Newman and Robert Redford. And that's kind of where the goal for me. But I don't know if I had any current day ones. I had some really good coaches I studied with. I studied with a couple of very good acting coaches that were tough to get into. And that's what I did, because my dad always said, go after what makes you uncomfortable. Go after what is the hardest road to go and not be afraid of it. My parents raised all five of us kids to work hard. So I would find out easily who were the toughest coaches to get in their acting classes with, because everybody in LA is an actor and trying to get into it. And I studied 4 years with two of those particular coaches, which were huge for me.
Yeah. Acting is a lot of, I've always had like a silent mentors where I just model after their behavior. And it's almost like what a lot of actors do. Like they'll watch you and they'll pick up those cues. And what do you do for fun? You like golf or anything like that? Or
I'm a big golfer. I already golfed already today. So
you look like you're a big hitter. You're a big athlete hitter.
They have to let me go first. I don't have time to spend 4 or 5 hours on the course. So I do 18 holes about an hour and a half.
No way. Can't do that.
I just actually played in Gary Player's tournament just this past Monday. Had a great time, and I've known Gary Player since 1998.
He's good.
Good friend for the years.
Did he win?
Arnold Palmer, rest in peace, became another good friend through connections through the years. I knew him for the last 25 years of his life. So I love the game, grew up with it. My dad introduced me to it. He was a school teacher in summers. He had to work on a job. Summers, he worked at a golf course, became the manager of a public course that all five of his kids worked at for at least 3 summers each, mowing the fairways, mowing the greens, being behind the counter, checking in players. It was a wonderful sport to grow up with. I loved it. I was a football, basketball, and baseball guy, but loved playing golf.
This is where you got a lot of your values, really, it feels like.
No question.
You could probably write a book, How to Play 18 in an hour and a half. I've never. How do you do that? What do you drive it 400 yards?
You hit the ball, then you hit it again, then you putt it. and have a low handicap. I'm a 5, so I'm not great, but I'm a pretty decent golfer.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And so when you look out in the industry, what do you think are some good positive trends that you're going to see in, let's just call it, media and movies and extended?
Well, I love that the independent market is picking up. I think it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Hollywood's doing less and less movies. They want to just sort of regurgitate the same thing over and over again. Let's do another action movie that has 80% of its visual effects,
right.
Instead of acting. I mean, I want to do movies that a lot of these other indies are doing that have actors or characters on the screen that you can relate to one way or another. And you walk out and you have a good conversation about it. You have a good debate with your friends about it. Instead of walking out of yet another Avengers movie and going, that was a fun ride, because that's like a roller coaster ride with them. They're great, but they're getting old because they're the same thing over and over again. And look, it's like Hercules. There was really nothing like that on TV. You had to go back to the 70s when you had the $6 million man.
You kicked off a whole genre.
Oh my gosh! By season 3, all these copycat shows came out: Conan, Robin Hood, Sinbad.
In a good way. That's good, actually.
Oh
'Cause,
yeah, well that's what Hollywood does, right? Anything successful, they all jump on that bandwagon and they
yeah,
try to copy it.
VCs can be that way sometimes too, in a bad way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You know um, what when you talk about God and Jesus and stuff, how does that help you in business yourself?
To me, it's a good focus for me. It just keeps things in focus. What's important in life? I mean, we're here for a short time, right? I think
Yeah,
we're called to harvest. This is my way of harvesting, hopefully. And I mean, through the Sorbo Studios site, we get people all the time saying, "I became a Christian because of your movies." I get people walking with me in public. I get people walking with me. They say, "Look, I'm an atheist or I'm agnostic." A friend of mine brought me your movie, and I thought it was pretty good. That was kind of cool. It had a good message in it. So to me, that's a win. And I know it's difficult for people if they got atheist friends, agnostic friends, which I have, and say, "Hey, do you want to go to church with me?" And they're going, "Nah, there's a bunch of church people there. I don't want to go," because they have this preset thing what church people are because of what movies and TV always portray them as. But then if you say, "Hey, I got a really cool movie. I want to check out a movie," that's a much easier thing to do. So I think the way that I'm reaching people through the movies that I'm doing has been an amazing positive influence on people's lives, which to me, this is the right road. This is the road that I think God intended for me to go on. And I'm not perfect by any means. I never said I'm perfect. And I think that's the biggest mistake if any Christian thinks they're better than somebody else because we're all sinful by nature to begin with. And I think the biggest turnoff is sometimes you do get Christians out there that tell people how they're living the wrong life. You're doing the wrong thing. You're the bad person.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that just turns people off. And you can't
yeah.
really do it that way. To me, it's just try to come up with reasons to say, let's have a real discussion about, why you don't believe in God, why you don't believe in a creator, why you don't believe, even the biggest atheists in the world don't deny that Jesus didn't exist. The biggest people out there. And, you get apologetics debating against these people like a Dawkins or a Hitchens or a Singer. They all admit that, yeah, Jesus was a real person. He was a person that preached the word of God. Whether they want to believe it or not, that's up to them. But all I know is that I'm sitting at this desk right now and somebody built it and it wasn't me. So that's kind of the way I look at the whole universe.
Yeah, yeah, good analogy too. Um, you also helped a lot of children through the book that you wrote, and I think you took over for Arnold Schwarzenegger running the After School Alliance. How do you help the next generation?
I left California 5.5 years ago. I escaped California, but for
I
over
did
20
I did
years,
that once.
I had the number one after school program in the state, in Los Angeles. In the state, it was called A World Fit for Kids. We
Wow,
worked with over 12,000 children. You can go to worldfitforkids.org to check it out right now. I'm not there anymore, so I can't go down to the 12 schools that we used to be part of, that I used to be part of. It's still going on. I was the face for it, the celebrity face, starting back in 1997. And in one of the worst school districts in the country. I think Baltimore is the only worst one. LA Unified over the last 20 years has had a 52% dropout rate, 52%. The 12,000 kids that we work with on an annual basis, we have a 98% graduation rate and a 67% higher GPA. What are we doing that the LA Unified School District is not doing? We're purposely dumbing down our kids is what that shows. Oregon just recently passed a resolution or whatever you want to call it that you can now graduate high school in the state of Oregon if you can't read or do math. We'll still let you graduate. I mean, it's
no
weird what
accountability
we're
at all
doing.
for that.
No, it's just weird. It's weird what we're doing. Look, I'm with Brave Books now as well, along with Kirk Cameron. My second book comes out next month. Go to bravebooks.com, bravebooks.com. They do books for 4 to 10-year-olds. It's morally based. It's certainly godly based. And it's about letting kids learn good messages at a young age instead of all the negative things being forced into them. And I hope people check it out. The last book I did came out last September, called The Test of Linehood. This one's called The Bare Essentials of Fatherhood, and obviously coming out during the month of Father's Day that comes out. So I hope people check
Sounds
out
good.
bravebooks.com.
Kevin, thanks for joining us. When you do your keynotes around the country, maybe I'll bump into you at one of these conferences. We'll both be keynoting. Um,
There we go. Perfect.
what's your big message to the audience?
Don't let anyone set your limitations, especially yourself. You can blame God. You can blame a God you don't believe in. You can blame the world. You can blame everything for your problems. We all have roadblocks. God never promised anyone an easy life, even for all you agnostics and atheists out there. We're always going to have bad things happen. There's always going to be roadblocks. How do you react to those roadblocks? So I always tell people, cue up the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror. Look in the mirror. There's the problem. Whatever you want to bitch and moan about, it happened. So what are you going to do about it?
I love it. Good message. Thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate you being on. You've been listening to Kevin Sorbo. This is Dean DeBias with the Reboot Chronicles. We want to thank you for joining us today. We'll see you soon.